The stars were wrong. Jake Morrison had spent enough time in space to know when silence felt heavy. From the viewport, Belther's prime burned in streaks of crimson and molten gold. Beautiful. And wrong. He didn't like missions that were supposed to be peaceful. Relax, Amy Chen muttered behind him. It's an alliance summit, not Fallujah. Jake didn't turn. Every war starts with a meeting. Daniel Carter snorted softly, eyes locked on his translation pad. You're not wrong. Lisa Grant checked med readouts, calm, precise. Vitals elevated, Captain. I'm fine. He wasn't. Earth was new, small, unproven. The Galactic Council thought humanity deserved a chance. The Valkythers disagreed. The landing ramp lowered. Heat slammed into them. 7-foot warriors waited below. Scaled armor fused to muscle. Gold eyes predatory and assessing. Weapons humming with contained violence. This wasn't diplomacy. This was inspection. A female stepped forward. Crimson scales. Command presence. I am Princess Kayla, daughter of Emperor Vaughn. Her English was flawless. Jake bowed slightly. Not submissive. Not challenging. Measured. Captain Jake Morrison. Earth Defense. Her gaze passed over him. Dismissal flickered. Small, soft, unimpressive. He'd seen that look before. It usually ended badly for the other side. The palace was a monument to conquest. Weapons lined walls like trophies. Statues froze warriors mid-kill. Daniel leaned close. Their entire civilization unified through total war. Lisa whispered, so we're negotiating with a species that respects strength above survival. Jake nodded once. Good. He understood strength. The throne room swallowed them whole. Emperor Vaughn sat in shadow, larger than his guards, scarred ancient dangerous. You are small, the Emperor rumbled. Why should you stand among us? Jake stepped forward. Steady breath. You survived by conquering, he said. We survived by adapting. We nearly destroyed ourselves more than once. And we learned. Silence spread across the chamber. We don't claim greatness, Jake continued. We claim resilience. The Emperor studied him. Then, alarms. Not ceremonial. Not diplomatic. War. The ceiling exploded. Crover shock troops dropped through smoke like armored meteors, shorter than Valkythers and wider, denser, built like siege engines. Energy fire ripped across marble and flesh. Jake moved. No weapon. Didn't matter. He tackled Amy clear of a blast. Cover, move! Guards died fast. Princess Kayla was shoved toward a corridor. Crovar intercepted. Jake ran toward them. No hesitation. 3 Valkyther guards fell in seconds. 5 Crovar advanced. They laughed when they saw him. The first charged. Jake waited. Sidestep, redirect, slam. Armor joint compromised. Arm useless. Second came cautious. Too slow. Jake closed distance, attacked inside reach, shattered knee articulation. The laughter stopped. He grabbed a fallen energy pike mid-roll. Now they were careful. Good. He flowed between them. Boxing footwork, marine grappling. Dirty street-level violence refined into precision. He used their mass against them. Wall impacts. Joint strikes. Redirected momentum. 1 fired. Jake pivoted, but blast hit ally. 3 down. 2 rushed together. Jake baited. Overcommit. Staff crack across helmet seam. Sweep. Throat point hold. Yield, he breathed. The last Crovar hesitated. Reinforcements stormed the hall. The attack collapsed. Silence returned, broken only by smoke and the dead. Princess Kayla stared at him. Not dismissal now. Recognition. Later in the medical bay, Lisa wrapped his burned hands. Amy crossed her arms. That was suicidal. Jake flexed his fingers. They were going to execute her. Daniel entered slowly. You should know something. Jake sighed. What now? Daniel swallowed. When she thought you were about to die, she said she wished you were her husband. Silence. Lisa blinked. Amy went very still. Jake stared at the wall. You're joking. I'm not. A knock interrupted them. A Valkyther guard bowed. Captain Morrison. The Emperor requests your presence. Jake stood. Hands bandaged. Blood still drying. He had a feeling this wasn't about gratitude. As Jake entered the council chamber, he realized something with cold clarity. He hadn't just survived the attack. He had just altered the line of succession in a warrior empire. The throne room doors sealed behind Jake. No guards inside. Only the Emperor. Vaughn did not sit this time. He stood. That was worse. You moved without fear, the Emperor said. Jake met his gaze. Fear wastes time. A low rumble. Not anger. Approval. You protected my bloodline. Valkyther law is clear. Jake didn't like that tone. When a life debt is earned in battle, Vaughn continued, it must be repaid in strength or union. There it was. Jake kept his voice steady. With respect, Emperor, Earth did not come here to claim territory. You misunderstand. Golden eyes sharpened. You have claimed something far more dangerous. Silence stretched. The Krovar do not strike without purpose, Vaughn said. Tonight was not conquest. Jake's pulse slowed. It clicked. This was a probe, Jake said. Yes. Not a celebration. A test. They wanted to measure response time, coordination, capability. And they saw you. That was the problem. Jake exhaled slowly. They'll adjust. They already have. A hollow field ignited between them. Fleet signatures. Krovar warships emerging from outer system dark. Not retreating. Arriving. In the medical bay, Amy paced. This is our fault. Daniel shook his head. No, it was inevitable. The Krovar and Valkythers have been cold for years. Lisa's voice was quiet. But now they know humans fight differently. Amy stopped. That wasn't standard military doctrine. That was Jake. And that made it unpredictable, unquantifiable, threatening. Princess Kayla entered without ceremony. Her armor had been replaced with ceremonial red, but the sword at her hip was very real. They come for humiliation, she said calmly. Daniel swallowed. Fleet size? 32 war cruisers. Amy stiffened. That's not a raid. No. Kayla's eyes held something new when they landed on Jake. They believe my father weak. Jake nodded slowly. They'll demand trial by combat. Yes. Of course they would. Emergency council convened within the hour. Valkyther generals towered around a war table of shifting star maps. When Jake entered, conversation stopped. Not dismissal anymore. Assessment. The Krovar invoke ancient right, one general growled. Champion against champion. Outcome binds the campaign. Amy's voice cut clean. And if your champion loses? The answer was simple. Total invasion. Jake studied the star map. This right, he said. Is it symbolic? No, Kayla replied. It is absolute. One life. For millions. Jake's jaw tightened. And your champion? Silence. The Emperor spoke from the head of the chamber. He died in the attack. The room felt smaller. They planned this, Daniel whispered. Yes, they removed Valkyther's strength. Forced desperation, forced recklessness, forced pride. The Emperor's gaze locked onto Jake. You are not Valkyther. No, but you defeated 5 Krovar warriors. Jake didn't answer. Because he understood exactly where this was going. You move unlike anything in our records, Vaughn continued. Unarmored, adaptive, efficient. Amy stepped forward. He's not your soldier. Kayla's voice was steady. He is my life debt. The chamber shifted, politics tightening like a noose. Jake finally spoke. If I do this, Earth stays out of the succession issue. The Emperor's eyes flared. Bold, risky. Human. You negotiate while standing beneath extinction, Vaughn observed. Jake held his ground. That's what we do. A long silence. Then, accepted. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Amy grabbed Jake's arm. You don't know Krovar physiology. I will. Daniel already pulling combat data from shared feeds. Lisa whispering, you're still injured. Jake flexed burned fingers. They won't expect that either. Later, alone, Kayla stood beside him on a balcony overlooking warships gathering in orbit. You could refuse, she said. Jake shook his head. No. She studied him. In our culture, union through battle is sacred. He glanced at her. This isn't about that. Her eyes softened slightly. I know. Below them, Krovar vessels ignited crimson thrusters. War drums echoed across the capital. Jake watched the sky darken. One champion. One fight. One mistake. And Earth would inherit a war it couldn't win. As the Krovar flagship transmitted the identity of their champion, Valkyther generals went silent. Because the name carried a title no one had survived before. The Krovar champion stepped from the dropship like gravity belonged to him. 8 feet of reinforced bone plating, dense, layered, scarred with ritual etchings. The arena floor cracked under his first step. A murmur rolled through the Valkather stands. Warbreaker. Jake heard it ripple like a curse. Daniel's voice came through the comm in Jake's ear. Confirmed. Title holder. Undefeated in 7 campaigns. Specializes in joint destruction and spinal collapse. Jake rolled his shoulders once. Good. Direct. Efficient. Across the arena, the Crover removed his helm. His face was brutal geometry, layered mandibles, secondary blink membrane, predator calm. He didn't roar. Didn't posture. He just stared at Jake. And smiled. The Emperor's voice thundered across the arena. Trial by right. Combat to incapacitation or death. No external interference. Outcome binds the fleet. The Crovar champion spoke first. You are smaller than expected. Jake exhaled slowly. Most problems are. The gong struck. The Warbreaker moved first. Faster than anything that size should be. Jake barely cleared the initial charge. Shockwave cracked the stone where he'd been standing. Okay. So he wasn't just mass. He was acceleration. Jake circled. Light on his feet. Boxing rhythm. The Warbreaker mirrored. Studying. Then, a feint. Jake read it wrong. The Crovar's secondary arm blade deployed from under armor plating. It sliced across Jake's ribs. Pain exploded. Blood followed. The crowd roared. Daniel's voice tightened. Blade extension. Hidden articulation. Watch left flank. Jake adjusted his breathing. Rib compromised. Not broken. He let the Warbreaker see the pain. Let him believe it worked. The Crovar advanced with surgical precision. A grappler. Trying to corner. Trying to crush. Jake let him push. Backpedal. Slip. Give ground. The Warbreaker lunged for a clinch. Jake dropped levels. Human wrestling. Shot inside the center mass. The arena gasped. He drove shoulder into hip joint seam and felt something shift. Not break, but give. The Warbreaker retaliated instantly. Elbow spike to Jake's spine. White flash. Jake rolled with it. Reduced impact, barely. They separated, both bleeding now. The Warbreaker tilted his head. Curious. Jake smiled. Now it was a fight. Midway through the third exchange, the Warbreaker changed tactics. He stopped chasing. He started calculating. That was dangerous. Jake saw the moment the Crovar understood something critical. Humans don't fight like prey. They fight like engineers. The Warbreaker targeted structure. Jake targeted mechanics. Every exchange, Jake tested armor flex points. Joint rotation limits. Load distribution. He wasn't trying to overpower. He was mapping. The Warbreaker charged again. This time Jake didn't retreat. He stepped inside. Took a hit to the shoulder intentionally. And trapped the secondary blade arm under his own. Rotated, hyperextended. There, a sound like tearing metal. The Crovar staggered. Not crippled, but altered. The crowd went silent. For the first time. The Warbreaker looked uncertain. Then the Crovar laughed. Because the injury hadn't slowed him. It had unlocked something far worse. Armor plates shifted. Not damaged. Opening. The Warbreaker's musculature expanded beneath reinforced biofiber. Daniel's voice broke slightly. Adrenal combat morph. He's been holding back. Of course he had. The Warbreaker's mass redistributed, spine elongating, secondary limbs fully deploying. He grew. Jake felt it immediately. The air pressure changed. This wasn't a duel. This was escalation protocol. The Warbreaker moved. Jake barely saw it. Impact lifted him off the ground. He hit stone and heard something crack. Rib. Definitely rib. He rolled before the follow-up strike crushed where his head had been. The Crovar wasn't precise anymore. He was overwhelming. Area denial, force compression. Jake's breathing shortened. Pain-sharpening thought. Good. Pain meant data. The Warbreaker swung wide. Jake dove under. And took the risk. He grabbed the damaged arm. Used the Crovar's own forward momentum. Pivot. Yiptorking. Full rotation. The Warbreaker's bulk shifted off balance for half a second. Jake drove upward with everything he had. Palm strike to mandibular nerve cluster Daniel flagged earlier. The Crovar convulsed. Stunned. Not enough. Never enough. The Warbreaker recovered and slammed Jake into the arena wall. Stone shattered. Vision blurred. Lisa's voice came through, barely controlled. Internal bleeding possible. Jake, you're dropping. Yeah, he knew. Across the arena, the Warbreaker advanced slowly. Confident now. Ending phase. Jake forced himself up. Spine screaming. Vision doubling. He thought about Earth. Small. Unproven. Adaptable. He spat blood onto the arena floor. The Warbreaker charged for the final crush. Jake didn't dodge. He stepped toward it. Inside. Again. Always inside. He let the massive arms wrap around him and locked his legs behind the crowbar's injured joint. Full body torque. Human leverage against alien mass. Everything burned. Something tore. The Warbreaker roared. Not in rage. In pain. And they both crashed to the ground. When the dust cleared, only one of them was trying to stand. Jake was on one knee. The Warbreaker was on his back. Breathing. Alive. But the injured hip joint had collapsed fully under rotational stress. The crowbar tried to rise. Failed. Arena silent. The Emperor stood. Champion incapacitated. The words echoed like cannon fire. Crowbar fleet signals flickered in orbit. Protocol bound them. They had lost. The Warbreaker stared at Jake. No hatred. Recognition. You fight. Like extinction follows you. Jake coughed blood. It usually does. Medical teams rushed in. But Jake swayed. Vision narrowing. Lisa's voice urgent now. He's crashing. Kayla reached him first, catching him before he hit the stone. The crowd wasn't cheering. They were calculating, because this changed more than a battle. A human had defeated a Warbreaker. Without armor, without augmentation, without fear. Up in orbit, crowbar ships adjusted formation. Not retreating. Not fully. Waiting. Daniel's voice came through one last time before Jake blacked out. Jake, they're not leaving. Darkness took him. As Jake lost consciousness in Princess Kayla's arms, the Crowbar flagship transmitted a single message to every system in range. Humanity escalates the board. Jake woke to gravity and pain. Real gravity. Earth standard. Lisa's voice floated through the haze. Stay still. He blinked. Medical chamber. Valkyther tech. Alien geometry humming softly. How long, he rasped. 14 hours, Lisa said. You fractured 2 ribs, tore intercostals, minor internal bleed. You should be unconscious longer. Jake tried to sit. Failed. Fleet? Daniel answered from the corner, eyes bloodshot from no sleep. Crowbar ships repositioned to high orbit. Not retreating. Not attacking. Jake closed his eyes briefly. They're studying. Yes. Amy stepped forward. And broadcasting. Daniel pulled up a holofeed. The Crowbar flagship's message repeated across council channels. Humanity escalates the board. Jake frowned. That's not a threat. No, Daniel said quietly. It's classification. The Valkythers hadn't defeated the Warbreaker. A human had. That changed the math. In the throne chamber, Emperor Vaughn addressed his war council. They will not honor the spirit of the right, one general growled. Only the letter. Kayla stood beside her father now, not behind. They cannot strike openly, she said. But they can provoke. The Emperor's gaze hardened. They will test humanity next. Not Valkyther's strength, human limits. Jake forced himself upright hours later. Lisa glared. You tear those stitches, I'm not fixing them twice. He swung his legs off the bed anyway. Get me orbital scans. Amy folded her arms. You can barely stand. Good, they'll underestimate that too. Daniel projected fleet telemetry midair. Crowbar ships forming a loose blockade pattern, not around the planet. Around Earth's diplomatic cruiser. Jake's eyes sharpened. They're isolating us. Yes, Daniel said. Legally, they can inspect non-member vessels for security anomalies. Amy swore under her breath. They're baiting a response. Jake nodded slowly. If we resist, we're aggressors. If we comply, Lisa added, we look weak. Jake stared at the tactical display. They want to see how humans handle pressure without violence. Amy studied him. You have a plan. I have a question, Jake replied. He turned to Daniel. How many Crowbar ships can our cruiser disable if we overload its core intentionally? The room went silent. Daniel blinked. Disable? EMP cascade through localized jump ignition. Daniel calculated rapidly. 3, maybe 4, at close range. And the cruiser? Destroyed. Amy's eyes widened. Jake! He shook his head. Not as an attack. They all understood at once. Demonstration. Capability. Willingness. Cost. Kayla entered without announcement. Her eyes took in the tactical projection. You would sacrifice your vessel? Jake met her gaze evenly. Would you sacrifice a city? She didn't hesitate. Yes. Then you understand. Kayla stepped closer. You are injured. Still breathing. Silence stretched between them. Then she said quietly, if you escalate this, there is no return to minor species status. Jake gave a tired half-smile. That ship sailed when I stepped into the arena. As Crovar boarding signals locked onto the human cruiser, Jake ordered its engines primed for something no one in orbit expected. Crovar intercept craft approached in disciplined formation. Precision. Confident. Jake stood on the Valkyther command deck, patched into Earth's cruiser through secure link. Amy's voice came through the channel. Boarding parties inbound in 90 seconds. Daniel monitored power curves. Core output rising. Crovar sensors will detect instability. Good, Jake replied. The Crovar hailed the cruiser. Prepare for inspection. Jake nodded once to Amy through the holo. Transmit compliance. The Valkyther generals watched in disbelief. You submit? One demanded. Jake didn't look at him. Wait. The Crovar boarding ships latched onto the hull. Mag clamps engaged. Airlocks sinking. Daniel's voice sharpened. 30 seconds to breach. Jake inhaled slowly. Overload sequence to Phase 2. Contain within 0.4 AU radius. Amy hesitated. Jake, that margin... Do it. Power spiked violently. The cruiser's jump course screamed into unstable pre-ignition. Crovar ships detected it instantly. Too late. Jake transmitted on open channel. To Crovar Command, this is Captain Jake Morrison of Earth. Every ship in orbit listened. You wanted to inspect our capabilities. Core output hit redline. This vessel can detonate with sufficient force to disable all ships within immediate proximity. Panic rippled through Crovar formation. Boarding craft disengaged frantically. Stand down, Jake continued calmly, and we stand down. Silence. 3 seconds. 4. 5. The Crovar flagship transmitted a single command. Boarding craft broke away. Jake watched until safe distance was confirmed. Stand down overload, he ordered. Daniel exhaled like he'd been underwater. Core stabilized. Cruiser intact. Crovar ships regrouped. Further out now. Wider perimeter. Respectful distance. No one cheered. Because they all understood. That wasn't diplomacy. That was mutually assured destruction. And humanity had just proven it was willing to bleed its own assets. Then the Crovar flagship transmitted again. Not a threat. An invitation. The transmission filled the command deck. Crovar High Marshal. Older than the Warbreaker. Scarred across one eye. You do not fight like prey, the Marshal said evenly. Jake remained standing despite the pain clawing at his ribs. We don't negotiate like prey either. A pause. Measured. Your species is volatile, the Marshal observed. Adaptive, self-destructive. Jake didn't argue. That makes you unpredictable. Yes. Silence. Then, we propose amendment. The Valkyther generals bristled instantly. Amendment meant rewriting the right. Ancient law. Dangerous precedent. The Marshal continued. Joint campaign. The chamber froze. Kayla stepped forward. Explain. The Marshal's single eye fixed on Jake. A third power rises beyond our borders. One that does not honor rights. Does not negotiate. Does not duel. A new holo ignited. Unidentified fleet signatures. Unknown configuration. Not Crovar. Not Valkyther. Not Council. They destroy without declaration, the Marshal said. We lost 2 border systems. Jake's pulse slowed. How strong? Stronger than either of us alone. The Emperor's voice cut in like steel. And you suggest alliance? The Marshal did not blink. I suggest survival. The weight of it settled across the chamber. Jake looked at the unknown fleet signatures. New variables. New predators. He felt something familiar in his chest. Not fear. Challenge. Kayla looked at him. You brought escalation, she said quietly. Jake answered just as quietly. No. He studied the data. We brought balance. The Marshal's final words echoed through the deck. Choose quickly, human, the board grows larger. As the unknown fleet signatures multiplied on the edge of mapped space, Jake realized the Warbreaker had never been the real test. Humanity had just been scouted, and something far worse was coming. The unknown fleet didn't arrive in formation. It arrived in silence. No war drums. No declaration. No challenge. Just distortion at the edge of mapped space. Daniel's voice trembled despite himself. Drive signature doesn't match anything in Council archives. The holo magnified. The ships were wrong. Not symmetrical like Crovar warcraft. Not blade-shaped like Valkyther cruisers. They looked grown. Layered hulls like overlapping bone plates. Veins of dim light pulsing through their structure. Biomechanical, Lisa whispered. Jake leaned forward slightly, ribs protesting. How many? Daniel swallowed. Initial count was 12. The display flickered. Now 30. They weren't translating in. They were emerging. Like something pushing through skin. The Crovar Marshal's image remained on the channel. We engaged them 3 cycles ago, he said evenly. Our weapons were absorbed. Jake's jaw tightened. On screen, one of the outer Valkyther defense platforms fired a test volley. Coherent plasma lanced across vacuum and vanished against a translucent field that rippled like liquid. No explosion. No deflection. Erasure. The unknown fleet didn't return fire. It simply continued advancing. Kayla's voice was steady but tight. They do not posture. Jake nodded once. Predators don't. Emergency tri-faction command formed within minutes. Valkyther, Crovar, human, 3 species that had nearly gone to war now sharing one tactical grid. The Emperor spoke first. They violate no right, no law. The Crovar Marshal added, because they do not recognize either. Jake studied their vector. They're not targeting population centers. Daniel zoomed out. They're targeting shipyards. Infrastructure. Production. Long war suppression. Jake exhaled slowly. They don't want slaves. Lisa finished the thought. They want silence. The first true engagement lasted 18 seconds. Crovar heavy cruiser formation attempted intercept. Perfect timing. Disciplined spacing. The unknown fleet responded. Not with beams. With adjustment. Their hulls flexed. Space around them distorted. 3 Crovar cruisers folded inward like crushed cans. No debris. No radiation spike. Just absence. The command deck went completely still. The Crovar Marshal did not react outwardly, but his remaining eye hardened. They alter gravity wells locally, Daniel whispered. That's not weaponized tech. That's physics manipulation. Jake felt the shift in the room. This wasn't war as they understood it. This was harvest. The unknown fleet adjusted course again. Closer now. Closer to Valkyther Prime. Closer to Earth's cruiser. Jake straightened. They scouted the Crovar first. Kayla nodded slowly. Now they evaluate us. Jake's pulse steadied. Good. Amy turned sharply. Good? They haven't decided we're irrelevant yet. Then one of the unknown ships separated from the formation and began accelerating directly toward the human cruiser. The unknown vessel didn't broadcast. Didn't signal. It simply approached. Controlled, precise, curious. Daniel's hands moved rapidly over the console. No weapons charging. No energy spike. Jake's eyes narrowed. It's probing. Lisa's voice sharpened. For what? Jake didn't answer immediately. He watched its trajectory. It wasn't aiming for the cruiser's engines or weapons. It was aligning with the jump core. It's analyzing power signatures, he said. The ship halted 3,000 kilometers away. Close enough to taste them. The Valkyther Emperor's voice cut through comms. Human, this is your vessel. Yes. Will you detonate it? Amy looked at Jake sharply. He thought about it. Truly thought. Detonating now would damage the probe ship. Maybe, but reveal panic. Reveal fear. Reveal limit. No, Jake said finally. Kayla looked at him carefully. Why? Jake stepped forward so his face filled the outgoing transmission. Because predators test prey. He switched to open broadcast. Unknown frequency. No guarantee it would understand. But he spoke anyway. This is Captain Jake Morrison of Earth. Silence. Our species survived ice ages. Daniel blinked. Jake. We survived plagues. Nuclear brinkmanship. World wars. The unknown ship did not move. We are small, Jake continued evenly. But we adapt faster than extinction. The ship's hull pulsed once. Dim light shifting. Lisa whispered, "It's responding." Jake didn't blink. "You erased 3 cruisers in 18 seconds. Pause. But if you stay, you will learn something dangerous." Amy's voice was barely audible. "What are you doing?" Jake answered without breaking eye contact with the alien hull. "We do not disappear quietly." The unknown vessel drifted closer. 2,000 kilometers now. Close enough to feel wrong. Then, a spike of energy from the alien hull, not outward. Inward. Scanning. Jake smiled faintly.
"Scan all you want."
The spike intensified. Data exchange. Signal capture. Then something unexpected happened. The unknown ship transmitted. Not language. Pattern. Mathematical. Adaptive. Daniel's breath caught. "It's mirroring our core fluctuations. Learning. Real time." The larger fleet adjusted formation slightly. Not retreating. Not attacking. Recalculating. Jake finally felt it. They weren't here to conquer. They were here to evaluate evolutionary threat. The unknown vessel stopped advancing. Held position. Then, it withdrew. Not fast. Not afraid. Just satisfied. The rest of the fleet slowed. Vector shifting outward. Not gone, but postponed. The Crovar Marshal spoke first. "They will return." Jake nodded. "Yes." The Emperor's voice followed. "And when they do?" Jake looked at the tactical display. 3 empires. Barely unified. Barely prepared. He exhaled. "Next time," he said quietly, "we won't be demonstrating." Kayla stepped beside him. "Next time," she corrected, "we hunt." The unknown fleet faded into deep space. Not defeated. Not deterred. Only delayed. Jake felt the weight of it settle into his bones. Humanity hadn't won. Hadn't lost. It had been acknowledged. And in a universe full of predators, that was the most dangerous thing of all. Far beyond mapped space, the unknown fleet transmitted a single classification into the void. Species designation, human. Threat potential escalating.